is Alyssa Cohen, and I am the Deputy Director and Senior Vice President of this fabulous museum, and we just turned 20 yesterday, so I know. I am going to do a few introductions, and then, but nobody's going to actually come up after I introduce. I'm going to let you know how this is all going to start, and then we'll have a few other words and from our partner, Beit HaFutzot, the Museum of the Jewish People, who we're so happy to have here. How many of you are from Beit HaFutzot or members of Beit HaFutzot? So we welcome you and are so thrilled to have you. We have this incredible guest here tonight, and I want to start by saying that Elie Wiesel has a famous quote that says, "To hear a witness is to become a witness." And tonight we are in the presence of a witness to one of the most incredible trials of the 20th century. And I need not say very much more than that. Michael Goldmann-Gilead was born in Poland in 1925 and survived the Holocaust after being in Auschwitz and on a forced death march. He has the unique experience of also being a key member of the Special Police Unit created to gather evidence for the Eichmann trial. He served as a witness during Eichmann's execution and was one of the people tasked with scattering Eichmann's ashes into the Mediterranean Sea. Interviewing him tonight is a good friend of this museum, a graduate of Harvard Law School. Eli Rosenbaum of the United States Department of Justice is the world's longest-serving investigator and prosecutor of Nazi criminals and other human rights violators. During his 15 years heading the DOJ's former Office of Special Investigation, OSI, his office garnered worldwide recognition as the most tenacious and successful governmental unit of its kind, winning more cases against Nazi criminals than did all of the other governments of the world combined. So we thank you, Eli, for your service. So Eli will come up in just a minute, but I'd first like to welcome Irina Nevzlin, President of the Nadav Foundation and Chair of the Board of Directors of the Museum of the Jewish People, Beit HaFutzot. Irina joined the museum in 2008, serving as an active and deeply involved chair since 2012. Her profound care and love for the Jewish people, as well as her entrepreneurial capabilities and bravery, are being reflected in the innovative, optimistic, roots-proud, and pluralistic new museum she is transforming Beit HaFutzot into these days with her team. And just join us for all of our fabulous programs, because there are so many coming up. So without further ado, Irina, it's your turn. Thank you.
Just to get that kind of introduction, it was worth coming. Actually, we were here yesterday to celebrate 20 years. I'm becoming a trained monkey. I think tomorrow I'll just come here again to speak at this stage. But 20 years is amazing thing to celebrate. Beit HaFutzot is 40 years old, so there is a way to go. Michael Glickman, you are somewhere, CEO and the president of this fantastic museum. Mr. Michael Goldmann-Gilead, we just heard and looking forward to hearing from you. Mr. Eli Rosenbaum. We have quite a team here from Beit HaFutzot. Dr. Arit Shaham-Guver, our chief curator. Avner Avraham, he's one of the main reasons that we have this exhibit here, the curator from Mossad. Dan Tadmor, CEO of the museum. Daniel Pincus, president of American Friends of Beit HaFutzot. Mike and Sophia Siegel, big supporters of Beit HaFutzot. Gloria Galan, director of American Friends of Beit HaFutzot. And Shula Bad, CEO of Beit HaFutzot of America. And I promise you, I think it might be the last time that you hear the name Beit HaFutzot, because we did change it to the Museum of Jewish People and are going to drop at some point Beit HaFutzot. My family was involved in Beirat Futzot into transforming it into the Museum of the Jewish People for the last 13 years. Yes, if you want to hear the interview after, I should not be too slow. Trust me, they have a better story than I do. The museum that I run is used to tell the diaspora story. And what we're doing is we're transforming it into the place that tells the story of all Jewish people. And when I say that all, we literally mean everybody everywhere. We don't have a tendency to decide who is right and wrong in the way they want to be Jewish. We just believe that there should be a platform for everybody to express who they are and what family they belong to. We've been doing that for 40 years, as I said. We've opened this year a new wing. It's the beginning of our renovation process, and right after the holidays, if nothing goes wrong, we'll start the second phase of our renovation, and you'll all get the invitations at the end of 2019 to come to the new Museum of the Jewish People. We worked really hard to create a shared space for discussions about issues that divide us and unite us. We have a lot of heated discussions sometimes. We partnered with this institution many years ago, and that's very personal for me. There was an exhibit called Let My People Go, which spoke about something close to my family, about how all Jews came together to save Soviet Jewry from behind Iron Curtain. One of the people who was saved like that was my husband, Eli Edelstein. And we are continuing this cooperation with Operation Finale, and I have to give you just a little bit of the background of how this all came about. Avner Alif, who is here, who you should all meet, I think you will definitely meet him at the exhibit, came to our doors and suggested to do something. He was a curator of Mossad then. He came to our doors and he suggested to do something that we never heard before, that Mossad will be happy to open up their collection and present the story of Adolf Eichmann outside of the walls of the Mossad. Now, I did think the guy was crazy. Because the way Mossad usually keeps the secret, behind iron curtains. So he came up with that, and we worked really hard. I don't want to go into the details. There are some Mossad people here, as I saw, of the long conversations we had with the legal advisor to change the policy to actually open up. We've been very fortunate from when Mossad agreed to do that with us, and the amount of interest to this story is outstanding. And then when we had the ability to actually travel this exhibit, first to Cleveland Jewish Museum, because one of the people who liked the exhibit when he came to us was Milton Maltz. He's the founder of the Jewish Museum in Cleveland. And so he brought it to Cleveland, and then it went to Illinois, and then finally it came where I think it should have started with, to New York, to this place. Now, the reason that we want to uncover all those stories, different stories that there are in Jewish people, is because we believe that in order for the younger generation not to have a difficult question, which I don't think is difficult, but you see them struggling, whether being Jewish is advantage or disadvantage, we believe that we have to uncover a lot of stories. But a lot of stories about Jewish people, they are not about the tragedy and drama. A lot of stories, much like the capture of Adolf Eichmann, are the stories of success. So we work really hard in the Museum of Jewish People to talk about our success. We believe that there is a place for the memories, and there are institutions like this one to keep the memories and to keep everyone remember. But unless we tell the stories of our success, of our influence, of how great this amazing family is, of how influential, how global this family is, I think we might lose the youth if we share with them only the tragedy of being Jewish. So our job is to tell the bright side of the story and to tell the story of everyone. About 2 weeks ago, we had a visitor, a very interesting visitor in the Museum of Jewish People, Mr. Antonio Guterres. He's an incoming UN Secretary General. He carried his central speech in the museum, and what he said was, I think, very important. I want to share it with you. He said that Holocaust is the culmination of thousands of years of hatred and discrimination targeting Jews. He also added that in his eyes, anti-Semitism includes any calls for the destruction of the state of Israel. I must tell you that personally, to hear that from the UN Secretary General was so refreshing and so surprising to the audience, but I think we might have got a friend somewhere. I'm really grateful that you're all here. I don't want to take your time, and I want to hear the fantastic opportunity to hear from the first hand, from the experience of capturing of Adolf Eichmann. And I really hope that next time you're in Israel, you come and visit the Museum of all Jewish people. Thank you.
Matt? It is a very great privilege to be here this evening to participate in this extraordinary event being held in connection with Operation Finale, the once-in-a-lifetime exhibition on the Adolf Eichmann case, jointly presented in New York by two of the world's most important, acclaimed, and essential museums, New York's own Museum of Jewish Heritage, a living memorial to the Holocaust, and Israel's Beit HaTfutzot, the Museum of the Jewish People. If you haven't yet seen the Eichmann exhibition, devotedly curated by former Mossad agent Avner Avraham, I urge you to do that. Among the artifacts on display upstairs is the Jerusalem courtroom's original bulletproof glass booth from which Eichmann testified and which figures prominently in many of the images we'll screen this evening. The exhibition will be here until December 22. And if you haven't lately, I emphasize lately, toured the entirety of both of these magnificent museums, one situated in this grand building overlooking the Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island, and the other in its own amazing and newly expanded facility in New York City's longtime sister city, Tel Aviv, then you are missing out on experiences that will forever affect your heart and your consciousness. Well, how very fortunate are all of us here this evening, for Michael Goldmann-Gilead has generously traveled all the way from his home in Israel to share with us some of his unique experiences, both in the maelstrom of Nazi inhumanity and as one of just 3 surviving members of the Israeli law enforcement team that more than 55 years ago famously brought to justice one of the arch criminals of the Holocaust, former SS Obersturmbannführer Adolf Eichmann. Apprehended in 1960 by Mossad intelligence agents in Argentina, where he was living under the false identity of Ricardo Clement, Eichmann's 1961 trial in Israel was a landmark in world legal history, a proud watershed moment in the history of the then very young Jewish state, and a decisive moment in the post-history of the Holocaust, especially in the way that the experiences of the Shoah's survivors came to be shared and to be received and ultimately cherished. Not since the original Nuremberg trial in 1945-46 had a criminal trial. This was, by the way, the world's first televised trial. Not since then had a trial riveted the world's attention, as did the trial of State of Israel versus Adolf Eichmann. First, to set the stage, so to speak, let's view an 80-second newsreel narrated by the legendary Ed Herlihy that was screened in movie theaters worldwide in April 1961. You don't do news like this anymore.
In Jerusalem, the trial of Adolf Eichmann begins. reviving memories of the Nazi horrors of the Second World War. Entering the bulletproof prisoner's box is the man charged with the annihilation of millions of Jews in Nazi death camps. Searching problems of conscience and of international law will be raised by this trial, one of the most stirring of modern times. Eichmann himself is impassive as the three judges who will decide his fate enter. Now, after 15 years in hiding and 1 year after his sensational abduction from Argentina, Adolf Eichmann is indicted on 15 counts of crimes against the Jewish people and crimes against humanity.
Accused, together with others, during the period 1939 to 1945, caused the killing of millions of Jews in his capacity as the person responsible for the execution of the Nazi plan for the physical extermination of the Jews, known as the final solution of the Jewish problem.
Eichmann's attorney, Dr. Robert Servatius, opens by denying the legality of the trial and questions the jurisdiction obtained by Eichmann's forcible capture. Dr. Servatius further suggests that Eichmann be tried by a neutral or international tribunal. Israeli Attorney General Gideon Hausner, the chief prosecutor, replies that no one except the State of Israel has sought to bring Eichmann to justice and cites the Nuremberg war crimes trials as precedent for this trial. Throughout, Eichmann remains icy calm, his fate at last in the scales of justice.
As you are about to witness firsthand, one might fairly say that for our purposes here, there are many Mickey Goldmanns, all somehow combined in one single person. He is a Holocaust survivor, born in Katowice, Poland, whose parents and little sister were deported to their deaths, and who still bears the prisoner number that was tattooed on his forearm at Auschwitz, and also the scars of a nearly fatal whipping inflicted by the SS on the teenaged Goldmann before he was sent to that infamous death camp. He is also a member of that pioneering generation of Israelis that courageously and tenaciously built and protected the Jewish state from the early days of its 1948 creation. Then, during his service as a senior member of Bureau 06, a special unit of the Israel National Police created to gather evidence against Eichmann, and then during his service as a trial assistant to Chief Prosecutor Gideon Hausner, he was a tireless and accomplished pursuer of justice on behalf of the millions of Jews slaughtered by the Nazis. More than 30 years after the end of the Eichmann case, he was a trial witness who helped send another notorious Nazi criminal to jail for life in Germany. For the past 23 years, he has been a volunteer member of the special Yad Vashem committee that confers the status of righteous among the nations on non-Jews who, with almost unimaginable bravery, risked their lives to save imperiled Jews during the Holocaust. And I hope he'll permit me to say this, in a more personal victory over the Nazis, Mickey Goldmann is the father of 5 children and 12 grandchildren. He has been married for nearly 48 years to his wonderful wife, Ava, who is also here with us this evening. Last night on this very stage, Mickey Goldmann was presented with a Lifetime Achievement Award by this museum's president, Michael Glickman. He is a living embodiment of the Torah's injunction, Tzedek, Tzedek, Tirdof, justice, justice shall you pursue. Michael Goldmann-Gilead is a hero of his people, of his country, and of humanity. In sum, I can think of no one more appropriate to educate us about the Eichmann investigation and trial, and what an indescribable honor it is to again be in your presence, sir. Before I ask some questions of our distinguished guest, a word about language. Mr. Goldmann speaks only 7 languages: Hebrew, Polish, German, Yiddish, Russian, Spanish, and English. By comparison, I have some facility with a few languages, but the only ones I really speak are American, British, Canadian, and Australian English. For Mr. Goldmann, English is much closer to his number 7 than it is to his number 1. And so we will be aided this evening by a Hebrew-English interpreter, Mr. Mordechai Ben Asher. That having been said, Mr. Goldman would like you to hear his voice in English, and he has graciously agreed to share with us a statement that, I think with Ava's help, he wrote in English. I think you'll find it offers a special perspective on his experiences and also a window into his very big heart, and you'll hear it in his own voice. So I yield to Michael Goldmann.
No, without. Thank you. I wish to speak some words about Eichmann himself. It wasn't an easy task to be in the proximity of a monster for 2 years, and Adolf Eichmann was a monster. He became a monster as a young boy when he volunteered to the SS, withdrew from church, and later became the head of the Jewish section in the Gestapo headquarters in Berlin, 4B4 department. His enthusiasm to send Jews to the extermination camps and to the death pits had no limits. He was the one who in 1942 deported over 40 members of my family, among them my parents and my 10-year-old little sister, to their deaths in the extermination camp of Belzec. His monstrous efficiency in murdering millions of Jews was so well known that his direct commander, chief of the Gestapo, Heinrich Müller, said just before the collapse of Nazi Germany, if we only had 50 Eichmann, we would have won the war. For 16 years, he succeeded in escaping justice until he was caught and brought to the trial in Jerusalem. During the first days of the investigation, we were amazed to see in front of us such a despicable and miserable individual. It was difficult to imagine how that same person had sent millions of Jews to their death and was referred to by his SS colleagues as the Judenkönig, the King of Jews. The first time when sitting in front of me, he opened his mouth and looked right at me, I felt if the gates of the gas chambers were opened once again. In another occasion, he noticed the Auschwitz number on my arm. He acted as if feeling sorry, but I knew very well what he was thinking. How did this Judenbengel, ruffian Jew, as they used to call us youngsters, escape my claws? During the trial, he acted as if not understanding why he was being accused for his acts. After all, he claimed he was just following the orders of his Führer. When Eichmann lies were exposed by Gideon Hausner, chief prosecutor of the trial, Eichmann expressed himself about him I don't like this man. Eichmann never accepted blame or showed any remorse for his acts, not during the investigation, not during the trial, and not before his death. In the day of his execution, at which I was present as an official witness on behalf of the Israeli police, he only said, "I was faithful to my flag and to my oath." And when Reverend Hall whispered to him, "Say Jesus," he did not respond, only commented, "I believe in God and shall die as a God believer." And I thought to myself in that moment in which God does this mass killer believe. Eichmann lived as a monster and died as a monster, absorbed with a fanatic Nazi ideology which has led to hatred, racism, wars, and destruction. This ideology, which caused the death of 55 million victims in World War II, has not passed from our world. It may be using different names or different places, but it is alive and active and continues to feel hatred and even destruction of people because of their race, ethnicity, origin, religion, or skin color. Only one hope remains for humankind if we want to survive and exist: to be free of such murderous ideologies so we can assure the coming generations of the ability of coexistence and respect for the lives of human beings, each and every human being, as we are all born in the image of God. Thank you.
And so now we will have a conversation assisted by Mr. Ben Asher, and I'll begin. Mr. Goldman, you literally bear the scars of your victimization in the Shoah.
No, I understand him.
We'll need you on the other side, though. From a terrible crime that was committed against you when you were a teenager in German-occupied Przemysl, Poland. Would you tell us about that?
זה רק מקרה שאני נשארתי בחיים, אחרים לא.
It's just a coincidence that I survived.
הגעתי לגטו בשמש כי אנחנו ברחנו מקטוביץ, איפה שחיינו לפני כן.
I got to the Przemysl ghetto because we ran out of the township named
Katowice.
Katowice.
This is up in Silesia. It's near to the German border.
זה על יד.
That was Canadian English, by the way, but you get it.
We came to Przemysl because we had a family there. Okay.
And then a terrible experience.
ואז מה קרה?
אינני אוהב לדבר על זה,
I do not like to discuss that
כי כשהגעתי ארצה
because when I came
כמעפיל
to Israel
ב-1947,
in April 1947,
ולמישהו סיפרתי מה שקרה לי
and
בין
when I
היתר,
told someone what did I go through, whatever happened to me,
סיפרתי שמפקד הגטו, SS ג'וזף שוונברגר,
And I told that the commander, SS commander Joseph Schwamberger,
היכה אותי 80 מלקות,
beat me or put on me with 80 lashes.
אני ראיתי שהאיש שאני מספר לו את זה, הסתכל עליי עם ספק רב אם זה נכון.
And I've noticed that that person I was telling the story about, was looking at me with a very big portion of not understanding and suspecting.
באותו הרגע אני קבעתי שאינני מספר את זה לאף אחד יותר.
And at that moment, I told myself, I will be never telling that to anyone.
זה מה שקרה לי, קרה לרבים מה-Holocaust survivors שהגיעו אחרי המלחמה לישראל, ואולי למקומות אחרים, הם התחילו לספר ולא האמינו להם.
Whatever happened to me did actually happen to many, many people who have arrived to Israel and maybe to some other places. And when they tried to tell their story, nobody believed them.
ורק משפט אייכמן פתח לנו בחזרה את הפה.
And that was the only thing, which was Eichmann's trial, that allowed us to open our mouth again.
Schwamberger forced the other Jews of your town to watch what he did to you, yes?
שוונברגר, הוא דרש מהיהודים אחרים בעיירה שלך שיראו מה קרה לך?
בדרך כלל כשהוא היכה, דרשו מכל האסירים שהיינו שם ביחד לצאת למגרש בחוץ, וכדי להסתכל איך הוא עושה את זה.
In general, when he was admitting the beatings or lashes, he would demand that all the people who were in the cells would come out and witness the lashes, the beatings, and the suffering.
And he used the buckle end of a belt, yes?
Exactly.
הוא השתמש בחגורה.
כן. חגורה שהוא החזיק את הכלב בדרך כלל שלו.
He used that belt that he would use as a leash on his dog, generally speaking.
Well, we will come back to Joseph Schwamberger,
אנחנו נחזור ליוסף שוונברגר.
to the Eichmann story. The entire world was stunned in 1960 by Israel's capturing of Eichmann.
עכשיו נחזור לסיפורו של אייכמן. ב-1960 כל העולם הופתע והופלא
I understood.
I think my questions will be okay. Were you surprised or did you know in advance?
הופתעת או ידעת מראש?
It was a big surprise for me.
How did you feel about it?
I was shocked. I knew who was Adolf Eichmann,
Sorry, how did it begin?
and it was impossible to to believe that this is true. That was David Ben-Gurion told us in the Knesset that Eichmann is still kept and brought to Israel. It was for us a shock.
You were in the Israel police, and you
היית במשטרת ישראל?
were given a position in Bureau 06, newly created, to gather evidence for this enormous trial. How did you come to be assigned to Bureau 06?
כשהביאו את אייכמן והחליטה הממשלה שיעשה לו משפט,
When Eichmann was brought in order the government to conduct his trial,
הוחלט שמשטרת ישראל תקים יחידה מיוחדת לצורך חקירתו של אדולף אייכמן. אני הייתי אחד מהיחידה הזו.
it was decided that the Israeli police force will create a special
Unit.
group
Unit.
or unit that will conduct the investigation of Eichmann during his trial.
During the investigation before the trial.
Okay. Was the unit under very big time pressure to build the case?
היחידה הייתה בלחץ רב בזמן החקירה.
אנחנו כולנו היינו בלחץ רב מאוד,
All of us
כי
were
כמעט
living-
מחצית היחידה היו ניצולי השואה.
All of us were existing in the constant and never-ending condition of stress because most of us were those who went through Shoah or Holocaust.
And what was your main assignment in Bureau 06?
הבנת את זה?
כן. אנחנו היינו 12 קציני משטרה, חוקרים פליליים,
There were 12 of us, the investigators on behalf of police, investigating crimes.
שהובאו מכל חלקי הארץ,
That was brought, all of the group was brought from all around this Eretz Israel.
כל אחד מאיתנו ידע את השפה הגרמנית,
All of us was fluent and knew the German language.
והיות ואייכמן פעל בכל אירופה שהייתה תפוסה על ידי הנאצים,
Given that Eichmann was active all around Europe that was under Nazi captivation,
חולקה החקירה לארצות שונות, וכל אחד מאיתנו קיבל חלק מאירופה כדי לחקור, למצוא דוקומנטציה וגם עדים שיוכלו להעיד בבית המשפט.
then the entire investigation was subdivided into areas of specific activities of each and every country that Nazism and Eichmann were active by. And each and every person got this certain area, certain country that it was that person's liability or he had to do it to find the witnesses, eyewitnesses that is, documentation, and everything pertaining to whatever happened in his given area.
And your area was Poland?
החלק שלי היה להוכיח את אשמתו של אייכמן,
My part was to prove the criminality of Adolf Eichmann.
על רצח יהודים בפולין, בשטחי ברית המועצות התפוסים על ידי הנאצים, מחנות ההשמדה וארצות הבלטיות. למעשה, החלק הכי קשה, גם מבחינה נפשית, של החקירה כולה.
So we had to investigate his portion,
אני הייתי אחראי.
and not only we had to investigate, I was the one in charge to the investigation of the
Crimes of
Jews being killed in Poland, as well as Nazi-occupied parts of USSR, then Baltic countries,
and extermination camps.
and extermination camps.
Treblinka, Sobibor, Belzec, Gamaliel.
Treblinka, Sobibor, Belz.
So you interviewed many other survivors of the Shoah.
Exactly.
אתה ראיינת הרבה אחרים מאלה ששרדו את השואה, נכון?
וחלק מהם הובאו כעדים במשפט עצמו.
Not only that, part of those people were brought as eyewitnesses into the trial.
And that must have been very painful for them to tell these stories.
וזה כנראה היה קשה מאוד להם לספר את הסיפורים האלה.
בדרך כלל, העדים שאנחנו נפגשנו איתם אמרו שהם לא יכולים לבוא להעיד כי מה שיספרו לא יאמינו להם.
The general situation was that those people said they could not have come and show up and bear witness because no one is going to believe them.
Was it painful for you to hear their stories too?
זה היה קשה לך לשמוע את סיפוריהם הם?
כמובן שהיה קשה, אבל היות ואני הייתי אחד מהם, היה להם יותר פתיחות לספר לי, לדבר איתי על זה.
Of course it was hard, extremely hard, but given the situation whereby I was a part of them, it made them more, it gave them the ability to open up more to me, as opposed maybe to someone else who was not a part of them.
Is there a particular survivor whose interview stands out in your mind that you could tell us about?
יש אחד
הבנתי,
מהם ששרדו,
תודה, הבנתי.
רגע, אבל
אוקיי.
You are doing great. Thank you. בבקשה.
אני חושב שרבים מכם שמעו את השם קצטניק.
I think that many of you heard the name Katsepnik.
הוא היה אסיר אושוויץ, וכשהגיע ארצה הוא כתב ספרים על מה שעבר עליו.
He was a detainee of Auschwitz and he wrote books about things he went through. Once he arrived to Eretz Israel, he wrote the books about it.
כששוחחתי איתו אצלו בבית, הוא אמר, אין לכם צורך להביא אותי למשפט, יש לכם הספרים שלי.
When I talked to him in his house, he told me there is no need, guys, for you to bring me to the trial. Instead of that, you have my books about it.
אבל לפי החובה להוכיח בבית המשפט את אשמתו של אייכמן, אנחנו לא יכולנו להשתמש בספרים.
But given that the obligation for an eyewitness was to come and appear in person, would not afford us an ability just to use documentation or books.
אנחנו היינו צריכים להביא במשפט דוקומנטים, בעיקר מסמכים מקוריים נאציים, והעדים שהיו קשורים בצורה זו או אחרת לתוכן של אותם המסמכים.
We had to bring the people who went through all that and the documentation from the Nazi activities related to those people, and anything else in conjunction with them being able to prove the Eichmann's crimes and Nazi crimes.
When Yechiel Dinur finally testified, it had a surprising climax, didn't it?
כן, אני הבנתי, סליחה.
Show that.
בסופו של דבר, יחיאל דינור, זה היה השם האמיתי של קצטניק, הקצטניק זה היה פסאודונים, הוא הסכים להופיע במשפט.
Katsetnik actually was a pseudonym of Yechiel
Dinur.
דינור.
And
והוא הסכים לבוא להעיד במשפט,
he agreed to come and bear witness during the trial.
והיה לנו חשוב במיוחד
And we had a very, very important, very special, in a very special way.
כי בסיפור שלו, אצלו בבית, הוא סיפר לי גם על פגישתו עם אייכמן עצמו.
Because during the conversation I had with him in his house, he told me about the meeting he had with Eichmann himself.
הוא לא הגיע לסיפור עצמו על אייכמן, כי כשדיבר על אושוויץ, הוא התעלף באמצע העדות.
He didn't he didn't come to actually tell a story about him and Eichmann, because when he only tried to approach it, but starting with telling a story about him in Auschwitz, he simply lost his consciousness.
And here, it's a well-known photo, but what I did not know until recently is that that's Michael Goldman, the officer at the bottom, racing to the rescue. When you attended the trial, let's see if I have that, Mr. Goldman, you were often seated next to the chief prosecutor, Gideon Hausner. Why was that?
כשהעדת על נושא של תיק זה או אחר, הרבה פעמים הושיבו אותך ליד הפרקליט גדעון האוזנר. למה?
לא כמה פעמים, אני ישבתי על ידו במשך כל המשפט.
It's not just a few times. I was seated next to him throughout the entire duration of the trial.
כי הייתי צריך, לפי בקשתו, להיות הפרסונל אסיסטנט של גדעון האוזנר בזמן המשפט עצמו.
Because based on Gideon Hausner's request and demand, I had to act as his personal assistant, and that's why I was seated next to him.
You said before that it was the Eichmann trial that inspired survivors to speak out.
אמרת לפני כן שמשפטו של אייכמן הוא בעצם נתן אפשרות לאנשים ששרדו מהשואה לפתוח את הפה.
This was the first trial of a Nazi in which survivor testimony played such an essential role.
זה היה המשפט היחידי שעשינו בכלל לפושע נאצי בארץ.
That was the only trial that we have conducted for a Nazi criminal in Eretz Israel.
What do you feel is the importance of the role that the survivors played in the trial?
כן. גדעון האוזנר סבר, וזה היה בהחלט נכון, שבנוסף לדוקומנטציה, למסמכים, צריך להביא עדים חיים כדי שיוכלו להוכיח שמה שכתוב במסמכים זה נכון. זו הייתה המטרה.
Gideon Hausner was absolutely sure that in addition to the documentation that it was in the prosecution's possession, eyewitnesses needed to be brought in order to prove those documents that were brought by the prosecution.
As I said a moment ago, this was the first televised trial in world history. Video was broadcast all over the world, including here in New York City, a nightly update on New York's ABC affiliate.
כמו שאמרתי,
sorry.
המשפט הזה היה המשפט הראשון בהיסטוריה העולמית ששודר כל יום עם עדכונים שאפילו כאן בארצות הברית ראו את זה ערב אחרי ערב אחרי ערב.
Exactly.
And you sometimes assisted the television personnel behind the scenes.
ולפעמים עזרת לצוותי טלוויזיה מאחורי הקלעים.
Can you tell us about that?
אתה יכול לספר על זה?
במשפט עצמו, למשפט הגיעו עשרות עיתונאים, אני חושב שלפחות 100 מכל הארצות, והם היו חדשים, הם לא הבינו בדיוק את הספציפיקציה, הספציפיות של המשפט עצמו. אנחנו, קציני משטרה שהיו involved בחקירה, נתבקשנו גם לסייע להם להבין לפי השאלות ששאלו אותנו.
For the purpose of the trial, there were tens, maybe even 100, as much as 100 press people or media people that gathered from all around the world. And we were asked to, given they didn't know clearly what was happening, we were asked to simply help them to understand what was behind all this. They didn't have a clue.
Eichmann famously claimed at trial, as you mentioned, that he had no choice but to simply follow orders. What's your reaction to that? How do you respond to that?
איך אתה מגיב לזה?
גם בחקירה וגם במשפט, אייכמן טען שהוא רק ביצע פקודות.
Both during the investigation period as well as during the trial, Eichmann was maintaining one thing. He was acting following the orders. Those were his actions.
הוא הסביר לנו, ואפילו השתמש בביטוי, הייתי בורק קטן במכונת ההשמדה.
he explained us, and he even used this way of expression that by saying, I was just a little bolt in this huge machine that was operating then. I was but a little bolt in that entire thing.
אנחנו הצלחנו להוכיח במשפט שלא היה בורא קטן, הוא היה המכונה עצמה.
We succeeded to prove during that trial that not only, as he claimed, he was just nothing but a little screw or a bolt of some huge machine. He was the machine by itself and by himself.
והדבר הוכח ונכתב גם כן בפסק הדין
And
שבית
this thing
המשפט
was actually
קבע.
decided upon and entered into the sentence.
At the trial, the terrible incident in which Schwamberger whipped you was mentioned by a witness, Dr. Yosef Buzminski. Can you tell us how that came to be?
אני הבנתי. אני לא אוהב לספר על עצמי
I
בדרך
don't
כלל.
like to be telling about things about myself.
אבל קרה מקרה, וזה לגמרי מקרי לחלוטין. לא היה לו כל קשר לעצם אשמתו של אייכמן.
The thing did happen, and those were among many things that took place, which actually this beating actually did not relate
Was not
in any
relevant.
way,
Was not
in any
relevant
way
to Eichmann.
to the criminality or lack of such of Eichmann.
באחד הימים, לפני התחלת המשפט,
One day, during the days prior to the initiation of the trial,
אני אז הייתי באולם בית המשפט, עוד לא היו האנשים,
at some point I was in the courtroom, which
לפני
didn't have any
שהתחיל
people in
המשפט.
there.
לפני שהתחיל המשפט.
Yeah, before the trial actually happened, started.
והיות והייתי במדי קצין משטרה,
And given I was sporting the police officer's clothes,
ניגש אליי אדם אחד ושאל איפה החדר של גדעון האוזנר.
a person approached me and asked to tell him where the room of Gideon Hausner
The
was
bureau,
located.
his bureau, yeah. ואני שאלתי אותו, כ-personal assistant, בשביל מה אתה צריך את גדעון האוזנר?
And then I asked him, as being the personal assistant, why would you need Gideon Hausner's bureau or room?
אז הוא אמר לי שהוא הוזמן להעיד במשפט על גטו בשמש.
And his response was that they invited me to testify as someone from Ghetto Pshamish.
אז שאלתי אותו, מה שמך?
Then I asked him for his name,
הוא אמר לי, שמי דוקטור בוז'מינסקי,
and he responded by saying, my name is Dr. Buzhminsky.
והיות ואני גם הייתי בגטו הזה, אמרתי לו שאינני זוכר שהיה בגטו אחד בשם דוקטור בוז'מינסקי.
And I told him that given I was in that same ghetto, I don't remember one person who would bear that name, Dr. Buzminski.
אז הוא שאל אותי, אתה גם כן הייתי באותו הגטו? אמרתי, כן.
And he asked me, tell me, were you also one of the people in this ghetto? And I responded by saying, yes, I was.
אז הוא שואל אותי, מה שמך?
And then he asked me for my name,
אמרתי לו, שמי גולדמן.
and I responded by saying, my name is Goldman.
אז הוא אומר, אני זוכר שהיה נער בשם גולדמן,
And he said, I remember there was a young guy, young kid, named Goldman.
I was 17. והוא אומר, אני זוכר את הנער הזה, אבל זה שקיבל 80 מלקות משוונברגר, כי אני ראיתי את זה.
And he said he did remember this kid, Goldman, and he also said, I remember him getting all those 80 lashes by Schwamberger.
הוא אומר לי, אבל סיפרו אחר כך שהוא מת.
But then he told me that rumors were all around telling that that kid has passed away, died.
אמרתי לו, הוא לא מת, הוא עומד מולך.
And I told him, the kid didn't die. He is standing right facing you.
כשהוא שמע את זה, הוא עשה אחורה פנה ורץ לחדר של האוזנר.
Having heard that, he turned like on a dime and ran towards Gideon Hausner's bureau.
אבל שכחתי לומר, שאלתי אותו מה היה שמך בגטו, הוא אמר לי, שמי היה דיאמנט. דיאמנט.
When I asked him what did people used to call you while you were in that ghetto, and his response was, Diamant.
אז אמרתי לו, דיאמנט, רופא שיניים, הוא אומר, כן.
Then I told him, that Diamant who was a dentist? He said, yes.
אני אותו הדיאמנט. הזכרתי לו,
I am that same Diamant.
הזכרתי לו כשלאחר המכות נשקפתי בפרוזדור של הבניין והאגף היה כולו זב דם.
I explained him that after the beating, after the lashes, I was put in the corridor with my face down and with my back that was totally covered with blood.
Matt, do we have the slides anymore? Ah, okay. So after, when he then testified and told the story of this beating, this whipping that he had witnessed, Prosecutor Hausner then said, do you see this boy in this courtroom? And whom did he identify? Sitting at prosecution table,
אני לא ידעתי, כשהוא נפגש עם גדעון האוזנר, הוא סיפר לו על הפגישה שלנו.
I didn't know that when both of them, him and Gideon Hausner, met each other, that he mentioned me.
so you weren't expecting to hear your story at the trial.
לא
לא ציפית לשמוע את
לא ציפיתי.
מה שהתרחש לך בזמן המשפט,
לא ציפיתי ולא הייתי, זה היה אינצידנט פשוט מאוד. אנחנו שוחחנו ובזה גמרנו את הסיפור.
I have not been looking forward. I was not anticipating. It, in my mind, it stayed somewhere. We had a conversation, and that's that.
Let's see a little bit of Dr. Burzminski's testimony as it happened.
I first returned to the ghetto, and in the ghetto I saw this Schwamberger who had shot and murdered people and beaten people. He beat up a child, he gave him 18 whiplashes. Do you see, Mr. Hausner, do you see in this courtroom the little boy who received these whippings? Is this Officer Goldman sitting right next to me? Yes, this is Officer Goldman.
Normalnie po 50 uderzeniach chłopak nie wytrzymywał i wtedy on strzelał. Ponieważ ten właśnie wytrzymał...
Judge Landau, just one moment, please. Please
After
stop passing that picture.
Mr. Goldman was identified as seated at counsel table, one of the photographers took a photograph of him sitting there. Auschwitz number visible. This photograph was distributed by wire services and published all over the world. In today's parlance, we would say it went viral. I've told many people, and I've told you, that this is probably my all-time favorite law enforcement photograph. Here, of course, is Mr. Goldman today. You've brought with you, and your son Ron shared with me, some of the important Nazi documents that you all gathered for the trial.
אתה הבאת כאן מסמכים נאציים שבעצם אספתם ממסמכי נאצים בהתכוננות למשפט, וזה אמר לי את זה בנך רון.
And let's look at them, a few of them quickly, and we'll discuss.
בוא נסתכל בהם.
So this is a product of the so-called Wannsee Conference of January 20, 1942 at that notorious villa near Berlin. And it shows the planning for the liquidation of all 11 million Jews of Europe. And this is an essential document, and I know you wanted to say something about it to the audience.
בעצם אתה צריך תרגום של זה. הוא אומר שהמסמך הזה, זה בעצם המסמך של הוועידה שקרתה או התרחשה
בברלין,
בעיירה
ואנזה. near Berlin.
כן. ב-20 בינואר 42, איפה שבעצם התכוננו והחליטו להשמיד 11 מיליוני יהודים אז.
אחת החקירות שאני ישבתי עם אייכמן היה גם כן בעניין ואנזה קונפרנס.
One of the investigations that I was sitting for with Eichmann was, the subject of it was the Wannsee Conference.
כששאלתי אותו מה היה החלק שלך, הוא אמר שהוא רק כתב את הפרוטוקולים, כי הוא השתתף בוועידה.
What was your part in it? He said, I was just the one who put down the protocol.
The notes. I want to go to the next document. Mr. Goldman explained to me that there was no cooperation from the Polish government, as we know, but that two documents arrived rather mysteriously, one of them being this one, which shows deportations to Auschwitz, and the question that the deputy chief prosecutor, Gabriel Bach, asked was, could it be proved that this was a reliable document? And you pointed out to the line that shows deportations from the Jebnya concentration camp, and you explained how this was reliable. Yes?
אנחנו ישבנו יחד עם גבי בך. גבי בך היה איש התביעה. איש התביעה, ה-prosecution.
Yeah, we sat together with Gabi Bach. He was one of the prosecution team.
עם המסמך הזה שהגיע אנונימי.
And this document that anonymously appeared,
אנחנו לא ידענו מי שלח את זה אלינו מפולין.
we
כי
had no
מפולין
knowledge
לא
whatsoever.
קיבלנו אף מסמך.
We had no knowledge whatsoever who and how forwarded this document to us from Poland.
שפולין לא שלחה לנו מסמכים, למרות שהיו לנו הרבה מאוד מסמכים.
Because despite the fact that there were many documents we had in our possession, Poland failed to send any documentation to us.
כמעט כל המדינות באירופה שהיו אז קומוניסטיות לא שלחו לנו, לא קיבלנו מהם מסמכים.
Almost all the European countries that back then were communist ruled countries, they did not provide us, they did not send us any documentation.
אנחנו ידענו שכל הארכיון של הגסטאפו בברלין נלקח על ידי הרוסים למוסקבה.
We knew that all the
ארכיב. גסטאפו ארכיב. סליחה.
all the documents
סליחה.
of Nazi archives were
of Gestapo.
Nazi and Gestapo were taken by the Russians
to Moscow.
to Moscow.
אנחנו ביקשנו מהם מסמכים מסוימים שידענו מה המספרים שלהם.
We asked for certain documents. We asked from them the documents that had specific number under which they were known or marked by.
But you persuaded Gabriel Bach that this was a reliable document. How did you do that?
אבל אתה שכנעת את גבי בך שזה היה מסמך שאפשר לסמוך עליו.
המסמך,
איך הצלחת לעשות?
המסמך עצמו, אי אפשר היה להביא אותו למשפט אם לא הוכיחו מי הביא אותו, ולכן גבי בך הציע אולי אפשר למצוא אחד מהאסירים שהמספרים שלהם מופיעים במסמך הזה, כדי שהוא יוכל להוכיח זה המספר שלי, ואני אז הובאתי לאושוויץ בטרנספורט זה וזה.
Given the presenting document without a live person standing to prove that this document was speaking about that person, we had to find somebody who was earlier an inmate in Auschwitz, and that person, that was Gabi Bach's suggestion. That person, if we bring him or her to the trial, will be able to identify himself.
His number. His number שנמצא באותו המסמך.
He will be able to identify himself by seeing the number, the ID number that used to be tattooed on people's arms, that his number was written actually in this document. and by this maneuver to create a link between the live person and the document presented.
הסתכלתי ברשימה הזו ומצאתי את המספר שיש לי על היד במסמך הזה.
I looked at this list and I found that a number marked on this list that was the very same number I was bearing on my arm.
Amazing. To move quickly to the end, this is a document that the Israeli police gathered also, and it shows Reinhard Heydrichs, the head of the RHSA, making it clear that the person in charge, the Sachbearbeiter, in charge of Jewish matters in Ukraine is Adolf Eichmann. There are also two tragic documents that reflect the deportation of Mr. Goldman's own family, his parents and his younger sister, preserved forever because of the trial. There's also another New York connection to the trial beyond the fact that the proceedings were so avidly followed in New York and we had a nightly broadcast here. This is a document that Mr. Goldman brought reflecting Eichmann's interest in one particular prisoner of the Nazis, a woman who was arrested by the Gestapo in Budapest in 1944. And as the German says, Frau Gluck, her name was Gemma, right, or Genna Gluck, was in fact the sister of the mayor of New York City, the much beloved to this day Fiorello LaGuardia. And in fact, that's what happened. She was sent to the Mauthausen concentration camp, the Ravensbrück concentration camp, and barely survived the war. And Eichmann favored holding her as leverage, right? Okay. An amazing story. She died in New York in 1962.
אייכמן כל הזמן אמר שהוא רק ביצע פקודות.
Eichmann maintained one line by saying he was just filling the orders of...
אנחנו מצאנו כמה מסמכים, והגברת גלוק הייתה בין המסמכים האלה.
We found a few documents, and the lady named Mrs. Gluck was on one of those documents.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
In 1990, Joseph Schwamberger was belatedly found and arrested in Argentina. He was flown to Germany to stand trial. And you were one of the people who testified and helped get him sentenced to life imprisonment. And he died in prison. Was that a difficult decision to make to testify?
זה אותו השוומברגר שנתן לי את 80 המלכות.
That is that very Schwamberger who reaped on me those 80 lashes.
הוא ברח אחרי המלחמה לארגנטינה.
Who ran away to Argentina after the war.
הוסגר לגרמניה.
He was turned back to Germany.
ואני העדתי במשפט שלו על אותו המקרה שסיפרתי לפני כן.
And I testified during his trial about and on that grim event when he lashed me.
שוומברגר במדים זה בגטו בשמש, שוומברגר מצד ימין זה במשפט שעשו לה בגרמניה.
Schwamberger sporting the uniform, it is him in the ghetto Przemyśl. Schwamberger next to him here, it's Schwamberger during the trial.
Was it satisfying to see him convicted?
Satisfied. I am never satisfied about Nazi criminals because it was not enough.
So to return and to close on the Eichmann case, he was, of course, convicted on December 12, 1961, and 3 days later was sentenced to death.
אז אם ככה, הוא...
Let's quickly show the other newsreel, Matt.
ב-12 לדצמבר 61 וכעבור 3
Once again, Ed Hurley.
A story that had a grim preface in the horror of Nazi concentration camps comes to an equally grim end in Israel, as Adolf Eichmann is sentenced for his crimes against humanity. Defense attorney Robert Savicius would automatically appeal, but this is the end for Eichmann, who was seized in Buenos Aires in 1960 and spirited to Israel. The three judges started to study the evidence when the 4-month trial ended in August and found Eichmann guilty on 15 counts of the indictment. In his bulletproof booth, Eichmann sits stoically as the charges are summed up. The unseen witnesses against this former Gestapo colonel are the 6 million Jews he is convicted of slaughtering. Judges then call on the defendant to stand as they pass their sentence. The end of a trail of blood and horror. The end of a man whose name will be written in infamy. The man who escaped the Nuremberg war trials by fleeing to South America receives justice at the hands of the people whom he had aimed to wipe out.
On June 1, 1962, Eichmann was hanged. As Mr. Goldman has mentioned, he was one of a small number of witnesses to that execution. Not to be outdone, of course, the New York Post had another story.
Turns out Mr. Mickey needs the interpreting.
Okay.
June 1, ב-1 ביוני 61, 62, הוצא להורג אייכמן. Yes, please.
Okay. So our next to last slide. This is fellow Auschwitz survivor Yehuda Bakon.
ובתמונה הבאה היה עוד אחד מניצולי שואה, יהודה בקון.
He testified at the trial about how Nazis forced prisoners to take the ashes of murdered Jews and throw them onto the road so that German vehicles would have traction.
הוא העיד במשפט. תודה רבה.
באותה קבוצה, באותו היום שהיה יהודה בקון, אני לא ידעתי על זה, סיפר לי את זה אילי, אני הייתי גם כן בקבוצה הזו.
I was the member of that same
Not
group.
a member, one of the group. Oh.
One of the other prisoners
One
who
of
did the
the
same
other
thing.
prisoners, let's put it in the peaceful way here, was I in the same group that Bakon was testifying about. Only back then I didn't know that. Eli told me about it.
It was only one day.
After Eichmann was hanged and his body was cremated, the Israeli government, as Alyssa mentioned, decided to do something else with the ashes, and you were a part of that. Can you tell us what that was like?
הבנתי, כן. בזמן התלייה הייתי צריך להיות נוכח כאחד משני קציני המשטרה שהכירו את אייכמן בחקירה או במשפט, שזהו האיש שעומדים לתלות אותו.
I was supposed to be one of the team of 2 representatives of Israeli police to identify that, given I knew Eichmann, to identify him as that person against whom שכנגדו,
שאותו תולים אותו.
to identify the person who was being hung.
And the ashes you had some involvement with.
ואחר כך שרפו את גופתו.
And then
בתנור
they
בבית הסוהר,
burned his body.
ועם האפר יצאנו לנמל יפו,
And we took the remains after he was born, the ashes, to the Jaffa port.
עלינו על אוניית משטרה,
We stepped on a police sea
Boat.
vehicle,
Boat?
6 מייל מחוץ לגבולות ישראל,
and we went to the distance of 6 miles away from the Israeli shores.
ומפקד בתי הסוהר בארץ, אריה ניר,
And Mr. Aryeh Nir, the commander of Israeli prison services,
ואני,
together with myself,
הפכנו את הכד שבו היה האפר של אייכמן,
we turned backwards that pile that his Eichmann's ashes were put in,
ופיזרנו את האפר מעל לגלי הים.
and we spread the ashes upon the sea waves.
The purpose was so that there would never be any place at
Exactly.
which Nazis or neo-Nazis could gather to pay tribute to Eichmann.
נכון,
And you have said that
הבנתי, כן.
at that moment, when you spread the ashes into the Mediterranean Sea, you instinctively said something, and then there was a response. Why don't we close on that?
כן, הבנתי.
שפכת את זה
כש-
לים.
תודה.
מה היו...
כשפיזרנו את האפר, בא לי אינסטינקטיבית לומר את המשפט משירת דבורה הנביאה.
We wanted to say a portion of the Dvorah, the prophet song.
הוצאתי את המשפט, כן יעבדו אויביך ישראל.
And I found this sentence saying, that is the way your enemies, your foes, will get lost,
Will perish.
will perish.
לידי עמד הרברנד הול, הוא היה גם על האונייה,
Reverend Holt, who was also present on that boat,
אני משוכנע שהוא אמר אמן.
and I'm convinced he responded by Amen.
So, thus shall all your enemies perish, Israel, and Reverend Hull said, Amen. A fitting note on which to end. Mr. Goldman, thank you so much for coming to this country. No, you said.